Wind and hail reports in and around Jacksboro, and then off to the north we saw a lot of that activity strengthen as it lifted north of the Red River into southern parts of Oklahoma. Earlier this afternoon, we did have one severe thunderstorm near Sulphur Springs that produced quarter-sized hail and up to 60-mile-an-hour gusts, but much of this afternoon has been quiet. Here's why. Remember our front yesterday? Well, it has stalled to our south and east. Behind the front is that cooler, more stable air at this point. Temperatures are in the upper 50s to mid 60s, not feeling at all like April. And then out ahead of it, it is warm, it is muggy. It's currently 81 in Tyler, 82 in Palestine. So if we were to see some activity late this afternoon and this evening, it would likely be in areas like Palestine or Tyler, and that's where we could still have a strong to severe thunderstorm with gusty winds and hail and maybe even some weak rotation. But again, the chances for that relatively low. Back behind it, we're looking at a very nice early to mid-evening across a good portion of North Texas until our next disturbance arrives. So, like last night, this next disturbance coming from the west-southwest, I have a feeling it's going to clip our far north and western zones, not necessarily DFW. And then we look behind that, there's our upper level system that's still hanging out in the four corners. This guy is the reason for all of these disturbances moving through. So until that low actually swings to the east and moves to our east, we have rain and severe threats in the forecast. So we're talking from tonight through much of Saturday, we have that potential. So specifically tonight, that strong to severe storm threat will mainly be for large hail and damaging winds, and it is off to the north and west of the Metroplex. I think that 40% coverage I have in the forecast is generally for areas north and west of DFW. We get into Friday morning, you'll start to see some showers by late morning, early afternoon, more thunderstorm development. It will be scattered in nature, and generally higher coverage here going through Friday. Through the morning hours, I think we are below severe limits, but as we get into the afternoon, that severe threat is going to increase, especially I-35 corridor and to the east. The more east and northeast you go is where the greatest risk for severe storms will be, and that's also where we expect some rotating thunderstorms. So tornado threat is generally low for a lot of us from the Metroplex westward, but as you go into areas like Greenville, Sulphur Springs, Bonham, Paris, Clarksville, and Red River County, that's where that tornado threat is going to be a whole lot higher. Now, it doesn't mean everyone is going to have rotating storms and tornadoes, but I would not be surprised if we have one or two rotating storms that become very dangerous going through late tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. By Friday night into Saturday, we've got another round. That round could still bring in some severe storms with hail and winds, but also the flood threat really going to increase at that point in time. So with several rounds of rain, we could easily have another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall for a lot of folks in the coming days, and that's why that flood threat is really going to go up. I want to show you our futurecast because I'll tell you, oftentimes in these situations, model data is not great, but they really are honing in on some of the specifics I just mentioned. So notice through late afternoon, early evening, it's generally for our eastern and southeastern zones. We'll watch around Palestine, Tyler for that strong storm this evening. And then as we go into the overnight, we're at 1 a.m., we begin to see activity out to the west. That coverage will increase, scattered showers and some thunderstorms expected for the morning commute with the greatest chance for that severe threat off to the north and west. By noon, more widely scattered activity. Notice our temperatures still kind of cool in the 60s, but as the afternoon progresses, the severe threat is going to ramp up after 3-4 p.m., especially as you head east of the I-35 corridor, and that's where all modes of severe weather will be possible with this activity. I have a feeling we're still going to see some in the evening hours, and then overnight, again, Friday night into Saturday, comes this next round, which is going to come in from the west. So we have a lot going on over the next couple of days. You're going to see watches and warnings get issued. Currently, we don't have either, but I have a feeling we're going to see some of that yet again. So what is the difference? I hear this all the time. When there's a watch, it means severe conditions are favorable for development. When you watch, you're kind of waiting for more information, and we want you to take precautionary measures, move patio furniture indoors or get the car in the garage, that kind of thing. When a warning is issued, it means the severe weather is imminent or already occurring. So when there's a warning, you need to seek shelter immediately, get into that safe space. The best way to think about this is, gosh, we're in North Texas. We love tacos, right? So when we have a taco watch, we've got all the ingredients to make a taco, but they're all separate, individual. Once that warning is issued, we've got tacos right now. So we'll talk more about these severe threats. We're going to talk more about hail size. Dan Henry's going to join me in just a bit, so stay with us. Chief Meteorologist Dan Henry here joining me. We have had several days already of showers and storms, so much to talk about. But there are certain things that we like to show on air. The Storm Prediction Center gives us those risks, and I think they can be kind of confusing for folks, especially those that are not used to seeing those all the time.
Yeah, it's a 30% chance of storms and a 70% chance of confusion when we show a lot of these graphics. Let's start with this one here. You see it commonly on the air. That's our severe weather outlook. Now, there are 5 different levels that range at the bottom of the scale with a marginal risk. That's in green. Slight risk, that's a 2 on the 1 to 5 scale, yellow. And then we've got an enhanced risk, that's the orange, that's a 3 on the 1 to 5 scale. And at the high end, and we don't see that very often at all, but we've got a moderate risk, that's a 4 on the 1 to 5 scale, and a high risk. There were areas yesterday that were under a high risk of severe weather, from the Missouri Valley, parts of the Ohio Valley, down through Arkansas and western Tennessee. So for tonight, we're under a slight risk. And then tomorrow, we've got a slight risk for much of North Texas, but to our east, an enhanced risk as you head east and northeast of Dallas. And then we actually also have a moderate risk for far northeastern portions of North Texas as well, as you head from Sulphur Springs and Mineola up towards the Texarkana area. That's where there's going to be a lot of low-level wind shear, more instability on the east side of the front, the warmer, more unstable side of that stalled-out front.
You know, Dan, when we talk about a slight risk, that doesn't mean every single city or not everyone is going to have that severe weather. Can you talk a little bit about, sometimes we show this graphic too.
Yeah, you know, severe weather events are what I like to say are low probability, high impact events. So the chances of you getting severe weather are very low, but if you do, the impacts are going to be felt. And this particular graphic here, you're always going to see the rain percentage the highest out of the wind, hail, and tornado, and they usually trend downward. Wind and hail, depending on the situation, one could be higher than the other. Tornadoes almost always are going to be the very lowest percentage when we're looking at those four different weather elements there.
Yeah, so this forecast is for tonight. I have 40% for rain with that lower chance in your county of the wind and the hail, and of course the tornado threat even lower than that. So for those that are concerned maybe about severe weather tonight, the chances are a lot lower than potentially what we could see going through tomorrow.
Yeah, and if we could come back on camera here, I want to do just a little bit of show and tell there. You saw those percentages there. So, you know, a lot of times people see the headline, up to golf ball or hen egg size hail. The chances of you getting that are very low. So let's say, for instance, that the hail chance is 10%. So if I were to pick 10 different locations randomly across all of North Texas, maybe one of those 10 would see that high-end hail, the golf ball or the hen egg-sized hail. There's one or two other locations out of that 10 that would see the pocket change. So we're talking about dimes, pennies, nickels, and quarters. 7 out of 10 of you won't see any hail at all. So another way to look at this is that with these big, bold headlines of large hail, maybe 1 in 10 are going to see that. So 90% of you are not going to see that high-end hail. And that's why we put at the very top, the strongest storms will be capable of producing up to golf ball, baseball-sized hail, 65, 70 mile an hour wind gusts. That's not going to happen everywhere. In fact, many more people are going to see the much lower end wind, the much smaller hail, and a very, very low chance of a tornado.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note we broadcast over so many counties across North Texas. It's not just Dallas and Fort Worth, but we forecast up to the Red River and then south, just north of Waco, as far as some folks in Tyler also watch us. So it's a very large area we're forecasting over. So when we're saying 10%, it's not over just a couple of counties. That's over a pretty large area.
And it's not a one-size-fits-all forecast.
No,
I mean,
it never
sometimes
is.
It's our western counties that are under the gun. Sometimes it's areas to our east. Sometimes it's right here in the heart of North Texas, the I-35 corridor. So we have to distinguish those areas, those threat areas as well from each other.
Yeah. So speaking of hail size, I want to show this graphic because it explains the different hail sizes. So Dan mentioned the more common are those smaller hail sizes that we see, P up to dime, nickels, pennies. It begins what's considered severe hail at a quarter. That is 1 inch, and then it goes up from there. Now, in my 11 years here, I have seen grapefruit and even a little bit larger than that, but that is exceptionally rare. So in a decade, I've maybe seen greater than 4.5 inch hail once or twice.
Yeah, those are high-end, super rare events. The Wiley hailstorm comes to mind. The one that we had up in Sanger, which was, I think, just last year. We set a record with nearly 5.5 inch in diameter hail, and what I tell people about that, the bigger the hail, the badder the storm, because it takes an unbelievably strong updraft to keep that suspended in the air, and what goes up must come down. And so you have incredibly strong downdrafts and potential for straight line winds when you're getting very large hail like that too.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. All right, coming up in just a few minutes, we'll talk more about the forecast for the next couple of days, and we'll have more details on exactly what you can expect. Welcome back. We still have plenty more to talk about when it comes to our severe weather chances over the next couple of days, but also just in general. We are now getting into the thick of it. Severe weather season, typically our springtime months, starting in March, going at least into early June. But we could have severe weather any time of year. We have seen it happen the day after Christmas, one of our greatest tornado outbreaks we've had in quite some time. So let's talk about severe weather in general and what outdoor warning sirens are. Now, many folks, even as early as last week, were saying to me, I heard the sirens, but I don't see a tornado warning. Well, tornado warning is not the only thing those sirens can be issued for. They're officially called outdoor warning sirens, which means if you hear them, you're supposed to be getting indoors, because not only could it mean a tornado warning, but it could mean winds greater than 70 miles an hour. It could also mean pretty large hail, at least the size of ping pongs. We're talking 1.5 inches or greater, and even other outdoor emergencies. So when you hear those warnings, yes, have the WAP handy to check out the radar for that tornado warning, but it could mean something else. It basically means dangerous conditions are imminent. Just like when we talk about a watch versus a warning, it means some sort of condition is going to cause some trouble, so we want you guys to seek shelter immediately. Let's talk a little bit about our rainfall over the past 24 hours. A lot of it last night, early this morning, very intense, severe storms out to our west. Radar estimates in the 2 to 3 inch range for a lot of folks in and around Bowie and Jacksboro. We also had about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in our far northeastern zones as well. You see where the hole is here. It's around DFW and points southward. But in the coming days, more rain is expected, and it will likely get heavy. So there are some areas we're concerned for some flooding conditions. And I think at this point, our northeastern counties will likely have the better chance of the flooding conditions. But honestly, anyone could get a quick 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, and that will increase our flood concerns. Right now, no flood concerns. Most of us are quiet. Our front has stalled to the south and east, so we are back behind on the cooler side of it. That's where you want to be in these situations. So we've got temperatures ranging from upper 50s to mid 60s, with it much warmer and muggier out ahead of that front. If we were to see a thunderstorm develop through this evening, it would happen closer to areas like Palestine, Athens, and Tyler, not really anywhere else. The greater severe threats by far are in far east Texas, going into the Arklatex, up into parts of Arkansas and Tennessee for the rest of the day today. We await our next disturbance, which is off to the west and southwest. Our upper level system just keeps acting like a conveyor belt and bringing these disturbances in. So until this low moves to the east and out of our way, we have several opportunities for rounds of heavy rain and still a severe threat. So one round tonight, generally north and west of the Metroplex again. A few strong to severe storms expected with large hail and a wind threat. So again, not everyone receiving precipitation tonight. Going through tomorrow, we'll see it widely scattered through the first part of the day. And then as we get into your afternoon, that's when we focus on the potential for severe weather. All modes of severe weather possible, especially in our far east and northeastern zones. What that means is not only damaging winds and large hail, but we could also see some rotating thunderstorms. And that would mean tornado watch or tornado warnings issued in a couple of counties here off to our east and northeast. So that will be the area to watch late tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. We get another round of rain Friday night into Saturday, and that is going to be very widespread. I think the flood threat for everyone will increase. Some severe storms possible, but not everyone receiving severe weather. I think that's the most important thing to note when we talk about these rounds of rain. You need to have more than one way to receive severe weather alerts. We'll be tracking everything for you, but each disturbance is bringing in chances for severe weather in different areas of North Texas. Tonight, it's northwest. Tomorrow, it's especially east. And by early Saturday morning, pretty much anywhere across the area, we could have those strong to severe storms. So computer models doing a great job showing the low chance for storms this evening, generally east and southeast. And then as we go overnight into tomorrow morning, we start to see that activity increase, especially off to the north and west. Late morning, early afternoon, widely scattered. We are still on the cooler side of the front through noon. That keeps us relatively stable with a lower severe threat. But as things heat up a little, we see some movement Here we are at 4 or 5 p.m. Strong to severe storm potential increasing exponentially with all modes of severe weather possible. Going overnight into Saturday comes our last round of precipitation, and there will be a lot of it. So I mentioned easily 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, and those numbers especially off to the east and northeast where the higher totals are expected, where our severe threats are also going to be a little bit higher late tomorrow. But at 1 to 2, good measure of that for most of us. So that is a lot of rain in a short period of time, especially low-lying areas. There could be some flood concerns. So we're going to be here throughout the next couple of days monitoring the situation for you all. We'll be tracking more on air starting at 4 o'clock, and we'll have the very latest on Fox 4 News.